In this video, we will be talking about Chapter 5, Supply, focusing on Section 1. How do suppliers decide what goods and services to offer? So up to this point, we have discussed in Chapter 4 the law of demand. Now we're focusing on supply. In Section 1, we will discuss understanding supply. How does the law of supply affect the quantity supplied? To start off, we want to understand what the actual definition of supply would be, and then we would have our law. Supply is the amount of goods available. Law of supply is simply this. If the price increases on the product or service, then the producer is going to produce more of that good or service. If the price drops on that good or service, then the law of supply states that the price, the quantity, will also drop when the price drops. Price increase, production increases for the product, for the supply. Price drops, then there's going to be less supply available. So quantity supplied, amount that supplier is willing and able to supply at a specific price, called the maximum point. So when you go to the store, you see a new product that's out there. The price is so high. What happens when the next generation or the improvement or the update comes up? We find that that product with the new update is now more in supply than the one that just recently got outdated. So the law of supply is simply this. If we have the price increase, the supply is going to increase. If we have the price decrease, then the supply will also decrease. So if you think of it from a business standpoint, if you have a product that's selling very well, you're going to try to increase the price of that product. But if you see that no one's buying this product, well then you're naturally going to drop the price because you're trying to find a price that people would agree to. So producers are always trying to find the winners. What is the winning idea? The winning idea that can help them being able to produce more of a product or service and be successful at it. So produce more, sell more. If it's selling, we're going to continue to produce. But if it's not, this is where we start looking for a substitute out of that. So businesses that we've seen in the past here that have followed trends such as the $5 idea have been a safe bet. People really seem to recognize with that and okay with that. So the market entry is a safe bet. Finding the trend. What is everyone doing that we can tap into? So again, $5. Hot and Ready, Little Caesars, $5 footlong. There's actually a restaurant pizza place called $5 Pizza. So jumping in on this $5 idea. Now we also have other areas when it comes to different types of music that people listen to. We go through trends in decades when it comes to music. If you think of when Starbucks started becoming very popular, we found that other places, independent shops, were starting to offer coffee just like they did. So looking to find the safe bet. If you look at McDonald's, same thing. Looking to find what other ones are doing. We have McCafe. Where'd they get that idea? Well, they saw what Starbucks and other big names were doing for coffee, and they wanted to jump in. It's a safe bet. People are recognizing that it's a safe bet. So supply schedule. If you remember, in contrast to the demand schedule, that was one individual where we asked what one person would be willing to pay for a pair of shoes. Well, a supply schedule will be the same thing. We could ask a business how much would they be willing to supply at different various prices. So that would be a supply schedule for one company. A market supply schedule is all firms. This is all within an industry. So if I wanted to find a particular industry, let's say it's shoes, in a particular different demographic area, let's say in St. Paul, Minneapolis, I could go to every shoe store and build a market supply schedule to identify what the price points are and what their suppliers are offering at various prices and how much they're supplying as well. So if we were to convert that supply curve, that supply schedule, or market supply schedule into an actual graph, we would refer to that as a supply graph or a supply curve. Now the difference between, if you look in this picture here on the right, the difference between a demand curve and a supply curve, a demand curve simply goes the other direction. And if you think of the law of demand, if the price is high, people are going to pay less. But if the price drops, then we're going to find that the quantity of people are purchasing is going to be more. Well, law of supply is different. If the price is low, like this point here, then the amount supplied is going to be low. As it increases, the price will increase with it and also with the amount of supply. The store, the inventor, the entrepreneur is trying to find a product that will continue to grow in price. If it's not selling, it means the price is too high. So, just as we had shifts in the demand curve, we also have shifts in the supply curve, which we'll get to later. So, supply curve, market supply curve. We also have supply and elasticity. Now, we went through elasticity for demand, and that talked about the amount that people are willing to pay for a particular product. And the numbers are the same idea. If the number is inelastic for the supply, there's not going to be any change. Unitary is 50-50, and elastic means there will be change that will take place. So it's a measurement tool that is used to find out, an actual formula used to find out should the supply change, increase, or decrease. The biggest factor when it comes to elasticity of supply is not money, not prices, but it's actually time. Every business can eventually become elastic. Short run, then we have supply that can be inelastic. The idea is that when there's a short one inelastic, you're not able to increase your supply. There's no way to do that. But in the long run, you're always able to increase the supply. So let's look at a couple examples here. If we were to talk about an orange company, let's say there was a new craze for oranges, and everyone across the planet, especially in the US, are just going crazy for oranges. Well, those orange companies they actually research and hire economists to find out what is the projection for the growth rate that year. And so based on those reports, then they make the decision if they want to increase the amount of oranges or decrease or plant new trees or things like that. Well, if we have this just an explosion of people buying oranges all of a sudden, well now what we're going to find is we're not going to have enough for everyone, and as soon as we run out, it's inelastic. We can't just grow an orange tree overnight. It takes time and years to do this. So an orange company is really key of an elastic company. They cannot increase their supply quickly. Plus, competition is very minimal because it would take very long for anyone to go out there, buy trees, and be able to grow them. It would take the same amount of time. Now, on the flip side of this, let's say you start a barber shop and you're the one barber and you're just doing excellent. People love every haircut that you create and you design and that you do. And now you have a line out the door around the block, around the city. Now what you would need to do is you would need to hire more barbers or hairstylists to come and work for you. Immediately, as soon as you hire an individual, your supply just went from 1 to 2, and both of you can start producing. You would train them, which wouldn't take very long, and then they'd be able to cut just like you are. You could hire more. You can hire 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, until the lines are being satisfied. So the difference in elasticity of supply is the time. Orange Company, they are limited on how much they can supply, so they're very inelastic. Barbershop, you can go pull anyone. You can go hire anyone to come into your shop immediately and start cutting hair. So those are the examples of the two there. Now, as we mentioned in the previous slide, any company supply, that's a supplier, in the long run, their supply is elastic. Meaning, okay, there's going to be an orange craze for the next 12 years. Let's start growing oranges. A couple years we have more. Now we'll have enough for everybody. So you can see that elasticity of supply is determined by the amount of that can be supplied quickly, or does it take a long time? If it takes time and years, it's inelastic. If it can be pretty immediate, then we consider this elastic. So there's the definition between the two of we have an elastic and inelastic when it comes to supply. And that's where we're going to end today in section 1 notes of chapter 5, discussing supply.